Jake Bennett, a 35-year-old software engineer from Seattle, had always been the guy who showed up. Every Saturday, he coached a kids' soccer team at Green Lake Park, high-fiving sweaty 8-year-olds and sneaking them extra granola bars when their parents weren't looking. The neighborhood moms called him the good one, and he'd grin, deflecting the praise. His real pride was his 7-year marriage to Sarah, a graphic designer who used to sketch silly cartoons of them on napkins during date nights. But lately, those napkins stayed blank, and so did their conversations. It was a Tuesday evening in their small Tacoma apartment when the first crack appeared. Jake reached for Sarah's shoulder as she stood by the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone. "Don't touch me right now," she said, her voice flat, not angry or soft but practiced, like she'd rehearsed it. Jake froze, his hand hovering midair, the words landing like a missed step in the dark. He stepped back, not because he was hurt, though he was, but because the air between them felt foreign, like he'd stumbled into someone else's life. Sarah didn't look up, just kept scrolling. Her phone screen lit up with a notification, a brief preview that burned into Jake's mind, still thinking about this morning, smiling face with hard eyes. No name, just a heart emoji. His stomach twisted, not from jealousy yet, but from the sudden clarity that something was wrong. 45 days, he realized later that night, lying awake in their shared bed while Sarah slept facing away. 45 days since they touched. Not a hug, not a brush of fingers, not even a sleepy nudge in the dark. The absence was louder than her words. Jake didn't confront her. He wasn't the type to shout or demand answers. Instead, he watched. The next morning, Sarah was humming a pop song, pouring coffee like nothing had happened. "I'm heading to a pottery class downtown tonight," she said casual, her eyes on her mug. 3 hours, maybe 4. Jake nodded, but his mind was already turning. Pottery? She'd never mentioned an interest in clay. He offered to drive her, testing her reaction. "No need, babe," she said, the word babe sharp and unfamiliar like a borrowed phrase. "You be bored." That evening, Jake waited 30 minutes after she left, then grabbed his keys. He wasn't proud of it, but the heart emoji and her rehearsed rejection gnawed at him. He drove downtown, keeping his distance, and spotted her car pulling into the Evergreen, a boutique hotel with glass doors and a reputation for discretion. Sarah stepped out, no pottery tools in sight, just a small black bag slung over her shoulder. A man in a tailored suit met her at the entrance, his hand grazing her back as they walked inside. Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He didn't storm in or make a scene. Instead, he pulled out his phone and snapped a photo, the timestamp glowing, 7:42 p.m. Back home, Jake's suspicion hardened into purpose. He didn't sleep that night, instead syncing Sarah's shared calendar to his tablet when she wasn't looking. He found pottery classes scheduled twice a week, always at odd hours, always downtown. He cross-checked the dates with the Evergreen's booking confirmations, which she'd carelessly left in her email trash folder. The pattern was undeniable. Jake saved everything, screenshots, timestamps, even a GPS log of her car's location from a tracker he'd installed months ago for a road trip they never took. Sarah came home at 11:03 p.m., her hair damp, claiming the class was expressive. Jake didn't challenge her. "How'd it go?" he asked, his voice steady. "We painted vases," she said, setting her phone face down on the counter. "You forgot your clay," Jake replied, his eyes meeting hers for a moment. Her smile flickered, just for a second, before she shrugged and walked away. That night, Jake moved to the guest room, not out of anger, but because sharing a bed with her felt like lying to himself. The next morning, Sarah posted an Instagram photo of her coffee, captioned, "New Vibes." Jake stared at it, not because of the caption, but because of the reflection in the mug, a man's silhouette, barely visible, holding a phone. It wasn't him. He saved the image, adding it to his growing file. He wasn't building a case for a fight. He was building one for the truth. Jake knew Sarah was slipping away, but he also knew she underestimated him. He wasn't the guy who'd beg or break. He was the guy who'd wait, watch, and act when the moment was right. And that moment was coming. Jake Bennett wasn't a detective, but he was methodical. The 35-year-old Seattle software engineer had spent years debugging code, spotting patterns in chaos. Now, he applied that precision to his unraveling marriage. After catching Sarah, his wife of 7 years, entering the Evergreen Hotel with a man named Chris, Jake didn't confront her. He didn't need to. The truth was in the details, and he was collecting them, piece by damning piece. The morning after Sarah's pottery class, Jake sipped coffee at a Tacoma cafe, his laptop open. He'd accessed Sarah's email trash folder again, recovering a deleted confirmation for a hotel booking. Same date, same place. He cross-referenced it with her calendar. Pottery, 7 to 10 p.m., appeared twice weekly, always aligning with evergreen check-ins. Another email, buried deeper, mentioned a Chris reserving a room for Thursday drinks. Jake screenshot it, his hand steady despite the knot in his chest. He wasn't angry yet, just focused. Sarah, oblivious, kept a routine. She left for work, a graphic design firm downtown, and posted a selfie on Instagram, captioned "Chasing Inspiration." Jake noticed the background, a sleek bar, not her office. He recognized the neon sign from the Evergreens lounge. He saved the post, adding it to his digital folder alongside the photo of her with Chris, the man in the tailored suit who'd greeted her at the hotel. Jake also checked the GPS tracker on Sarah's car, confirming her work trips often ended at the hotel, not her studio. That evening, Sarah announced another class. "Pottery again," she said, grabbing her keys. Jake nodded, offering a faint smile. "Learning a lot?" he asked, testing her. "Tons," she replied, her voice too bright, like she was selling a lie she barely believed. Jake waited 20 minutes, then drove to the Evergreen. He parked across the street, watching as Sarah arrived. No art supplies, just that same black bag. Chris met her again, this time with a quick kiss at the entrance. Jake's phone camera clicked, capturing the moment. 8:14 p.m., Thursday. Back home, Jake dug deeper. He found Sarah's phone left on the counter while she showered, a rare slip. He didn't touch it, too risky, but he'd already mirrored her notifications to an old tablet. A text popped up from C. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Room 412. Jake saved it, then noticed a pattern in her messages. Chris's texts always came late, after 10 p.m., when Sarah claimed to be exhausted from work. Jake traced her calendar back 3 months, finding classes that coincided with hotel stays. He compiled everything into an encrypted file, backed up to a cloud drive only he could access. The next day, Sarah tried to act normal, cooking breakfast for the first time in months. Pancakes, Jake's favorite. "Thought we could use a chill morning," she said, sliding a plate across the counter. Jake ate silently, watching her fidget. Her phone buzzed, and she flipped it over too quickly. "Work," she muttered. Jake didn't push. Instead, he asked, "How's the pottery going? Made anything cool?" Sarah hesitated, then said, "Just vases. Nothing special." Her eyes darted away, and Jake knew she was lying. He let it hang, the silence heavier than any accusation. That night, Jake took a bolder step. He logged into Sarah's Instagram from a burner account, noticing she'd followed a new profile, Chris_Manning89. The account was private, but the profile picture matched the man from the hotel. Same suit, same smirk. Jake didn't stop there. He found Chris's LinkedIn. Christopher Manning, 38, marketing consultant, Seattle-based. A quick search revealed Chris's name on the Evergreen's guest registry, public due to a recent data leak. Jake saved the link, another piece of his puzzle. Sarah's behavior shifted subtly. She started texting Jake more, asking about his day, offering to watch a movie together. "Let's do something fun soon," she said one evening, her voice almost convincing. Jake played along, agreeing vaguely, but he was already planning his next move. He contacted his sister, Emily, a paralegal with a sharp mind and sharper tongue. "I need you to hold on to something," he told her over coffee, handing her a USB drive with his evidence, screenshots, photos, GPS logs. "Don't ask yet. Just keep it safe." Emily nodded, sensing the weight of it. "She's messing with the wrong guy," she said, pocketing the drive. By Friday, Jake's file was airtight. He tracked Sarah's classes to 6 hotel visits in 2 months, each with a matching text from Chris. He found a deleted Venmo payment from Sarah to C. Manning for drinks, time-stamped after a supposed class. The evidence was overwhelming, but Jake didn't want to fight. He wanted Sarah to face the truth without him saying a word. He printed the hotel photo, Sarah and Chris at the entrance, her smile brighter than it had been with Jake in years. He folded it carefully, planning to place it where she'd find it alone. That night, Sarah came home late, claiming a work happy hour. Jake was in the guest room, where he'd slept for a week. "You okay?" she called through the door, her voice laced with something new, worry. maybe guilt. Jake didn't answer. He waited until she was asleep, then slipped the photo into her makeup bag, tucked under a compact. It wasn't about confrontation. It was about letting her see herself through his eyes. Jake knew the real unraveling was about to begin, and he was ready to step back and watch. Jake Bennett had always been patient, a trait that made him a great software engineer and an even better kids soccer coach in Seattle. But now, at 35, he was using that patience as a weapon. For weeks, he'd gathered evidence of his wife, Sarah's affair. Hotel photos, sync calendars, screenshots of flirty texts from Chris. He didn't yell or accuse. He planned. The photo of Sarah and Chris Manning entering the Evergreen Hotel, her smile brighter than it had been with Jake in years, was now tucked inside her makeup bag, waiting to be found. Jake was done begging for truth. It was time for Sarah to face it. On Friday evening, Sarah announced another pottery class. Jake nodded, his face neutral. "Have fun," he said, the words light but deliberate. She left, her keys jangling, unaware of the trap Jake had set. He packed a small bag, essentials only, and drove 3 hours to his brother's cabin in the Cascades. No note, no text, just silence. He turned off his phone, letting the mountain air and the crackle of a fire replace the noise of his crumbling marriage. He wasn't running. He was giving Sarah space to unravel. Back in Tacoma, Sarah returned home at midnight, her routine intact. She didn't notice Jake's absence until the next morning, when she called out and got no answer. Her phone buzzed with a new message from Chris. "Miss you already. Same time next week?" She smiled, then opened her makeup bag to touch up her mascara. The photo slipped out, landing on the counter, a frozen moment of her and Chris at the Evergreen, time-stamped undeniable. Her hands shook as she stared at it, the reality of her betrayal staring back. She texted Jake, "Where are you?" No reply. Then, "Did you do this?" Still nothing. By noon, her messages grew frantic. "We need to talk. Now." Jake stayed offline, chopping wood at the cabin, his mind clear. He wasn't hiding. He was waiting. Sarah's calls piled up, 8 by Sunday evening. Her final text read, "Please, Jake, I found it." He didn't respond. He wanted her to sit with the image, to feel the weight of her choices without his voice to soften the blow. On Monday, he drove back to Tacoma, pulling into their driveway at dusk. Sarah was waiting in the kitchen, her phone clutched tightly. "You left this," she said, holding up the photo, her voice thin but sharp. "Why?" Jake leaned against the counter, his calm unnerving her. "You lived it," he said, his tone even. "I just made sure you saw it." Sarah's eyes darted away, searching for an excuse. "It was just a class," she started, but the lie crumbled mid-sentence. She sank into a chair, the photo still in her hand. "How long have you known?" she asked. Jake didn't answer directly. "Long enough to know you're not who you promised to be," he said, his words cutting without raising his voice. Desperate to regain control, Sarah pivoted. She suggested dinner, pulling out a pan to cook chicken marsala, a dish they hadn't shared in years. She set the table with candles, her movements forced, like she was auditioning for a role she'd forgotten. Jake sat across from her, eating slowly, his silence louder than any argument. Halfway through, she broke. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her fork clattering. "It was a mistake." Jake set his glass down. "Mistakes don't have hotel reservations," he replied. "Or pet names." Sarah flinched, her attempt at normalcy collapsing. She tried another angle, suggesting they talk it out, even mentioning counseling. Jake shook his head. "You don't get to rewrite this," he said. "You chose him every time you lied to me." He stood, leaving the table, and returned to the guest room. Sarah didn't follow. That night, Jake checked his encrypted file, screenshots, GPS logs, hotel confirmations, all safe. He emailed a copy to his sister, Emily, with a note. "Hold on to this. I'll need it soon." The next morning, Sarah was different, quieter, almost cautious. She left for work without mentioning the photo or Jake's absence. He knew she was scrambling, trying to gauge how much he'd uncovered. He didn't tip his hand. Instead, he called Emily, who'd been waiting for his signal. "She's starting to crack," he said. "Don't post anything yet." Emily agreed, but her voice was tight with anger. "She doesn't deserve you protecting her," she said. Jake didn't disagree, but he wasn't ready for the final move. Not yet. Sarah's next attempt came that evening. She sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, then looked up. "Let's take a weekend trip," she said, her voice too eager. Just us, to reconnect. Jake almost laughed. Instead, he said, maybe. I'm busy this week. Her face fell, but she nodded, retreating to her phone. Jake knew she was texting Chris. His tablet mirrored a new message. Need to pause. He's acting weird. Jake saved it. Another nail in the coffin she didn't know she was building. By Wednesday, Sarah's facade was fraying. She left her phone unlocked on the counter, a rare mistake. Jake saw a new text from Chris. Room 412 tomorrow? I booked it. He didn't touch the phone, just screenshotted the notification. He was ready to escalate, but not with a confrontation. Jake wanted Sarah to expose herself, to feel the truth close in without him firing a shot. He placed a second photo, this one of her car parked at the Evergreen, under her laptop. Then he left for work, coaching his soccer kids that evening. Their cheers a reminder of who he was beyond Sarah's lies. The game was on, and Sarah didn't even know she was playing. Jake Bennett, the 35-year-old Seattle software engineer, had spent weeks meticulously gathering evidence of his wife Sarah's affair with Chris Manning. Photos of them at the Evergreen Hotel, synced calendars revealing her lies about pottery classes, and screenshots of flirty texts were all stored in an encrypted file. After planting a damning photo in Sarah's makeup bag, Jake had retreated to his brother's cabin in the Cascades, letting her stew in the truth. Now, back in Tacoma, he watched her scramble to regain control, her stage dinner and talk of reconnecting falling flat. Jake wasn't playing her game anymore. He was rewriting the rules. Sarah's attempts to smooth things over grew desperate. She texted Jake during his soccer coaching session. Can we talk tonight? Really talk. He didn't reply, letting her words hang unanswered. That evening, she was waiting at home, suggesting a movie night, her voice laced with forced warmth. Jake sat on the couch, a foot of space between them, and nodded absently as she picked a rom-com. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Chris. 412 tomorrow. Jake saw it mirrored on his tablet, saved it, and said nothing. Sarah glanced at him, sensing his distance, but pressed play anyway, her fingers tapping nervously. The next morning, Jake escalated his plan. He'd given his sister, Emily, a USB drive with his evidence, photos, GPS logs, hotel bookings. Over coffee, he called her. It's time, he said. Emily, a paralegal with a knack for precision, had been waiting. I'll make it anonymous, but loud, she promised. By noon, she posted a detailed thread on a popular Seattle relationship forum titled, When Your Spouse Thinks You're Blind. No names, just facts, dates of hotel visits, a blurred photo of a couple at the Evergreen, and a timeline of art classes that were clearly rendezvous. She included a screenshot of a Venmo payment from Sarah to C. Manning for drinks, carefully redacted but unmistakable to anyone who knew her. The post spread like wildfire. By evening, it had 200 comments, with locals speculating about the couple. A co-worker of Sarah's DM'd Jake. Is this about her? I saw her at that hotel last month. Jake didn't confirm, just thanked him for reaching out. Sarah, unaware, went to her class that night. Jake stayed home, checking the forum. Someone had matched a background in Sarah's Instagram post, a neon bar sign, to the Evergreen's lounge, pinning her to the scene. Another user found a public guest list from a hotel data leak, spotting Chris Manning's name. The pieces were falling into place without Jake lifting a finger. Sarah came home at 11:47 p.m., her usual time. She froze when she saw Jake at the kitchen table, his laptop open. You're up late, she said, her voice tight. Couldn't sleep, Jake replied, closing the screen. He didn't mention the forum, but her phone was already buzzing with notifications. She ignored it, heading to bed, but Jake knew she'd see the post soon. The next morning, Sarah's Instagram was gone, deleted overnight. Her Twitter followed by noon. She called Jake at work, her voice shaking. You said you wouldn't go nuclear, she accused. Jake stayed calm. I didn't. You did that yourself. I just stopped hiding it. Sarah tried damage control, texting mutual friends, claiming misunderstandings. But the forum thread had reached their circle. A neighbor texted Jake, I'm sorry, man. I saw her with some guy at a bar weeks ago. Didn't know how to tell you. Jake thanked him, adding the message to his file. Sarah's Pilates instructor emailed. I heard what's going on. I should have said something. The silence of witnesses, Jake realized, was breaking. Sarah's world was shrinking, exposed not by Jake's voice, but by her own actions reflected back. That evening, Sarah confronted him, her hands gripping her phone. You told Emily to post that, didn't you?" she demanded. Jake shook his head. "I gave her facts. She chose what to do with them." Sarah's eyes widened, but she had no rebuttal. "I want counseling," she said, almost pleading. "We can fix this." Jake leaned forward, his voice steady. "You didn't cheat because I failed you. You cheated because you wanted chaos. I'm done being your anchor." He stood, grabbed his keys, and left for a walk, leaving her with the weight of his words. Jake didn't go far, just to a nearby park where he coached his kids' team. The routine grounded him. The kids' laughter a reminder of who he was beyond Sarah's betrayal. When he returned, Sarah was gone, her car missing. He checked his tablet. A new text from Chris. "What's going on?" "You're ghosting me." Jake saved it, then called Emily. "She's spiraling," he said. "Good," Emily replied. "Let her." The next day, Jake took his final step. He contacted a leasing office in Tacoma, securing a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet complex, no shared walls. He wired the deposit under his middle name, keeping it discreet. That afternoon, he packed a suitcase, laptop, essentials, a few books, and moved out. He left no note, just a bank transfer screenshot on Sarah's pillow. Half their joint savings split to the cent, with a message: fairness. He drove to his new place, the key in his hand, feeling heavier than any ring. Sarah's unraveling was complete, and Jake was ready to rebuild without her shadow. Jake Bennett, the 35-year-old Seattle software engineer, had dismantled the illusion of his 7-year marriage to Sarah with quiet precision. After uncovering her affair with Chris Manning through hotel photos, synced calendars, and incriminating texts, he'd exposed her lies without confrontation, letting a viral forum post by his sister Emily do the talking. Now, settled in a one-bedroom Tacoma apartment, Jake had split their savings and walked away, leaving Sarah to face the consequences of her betrayal. The fallout was public, her social media erased, her reputation fractured. Jake wasn't gloating, he was moving forward. 3 days after moving out, Jake received a certified letter. Inside was a single page. Divorce papers, signed by Sarah Coleman, her maiden name, as if their marriage had never existed. Jake didn't hesitate. He signed the forms, drove to a post office, and mailed them with no return address. The act felt final, not bitter, a clean cut. He didn't need her to know where he was. He'd already left her world behind. Sarah tried reaching out once, texting, "Can we at least talk about the papers?" Jake didn't reply. He blocked her number, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. Her next move came indirectly. A mutual friend, Tom, called to say Sarah had moved to Portland, starting over quietly. Jake nodded, unsurprised. She'd always been good at running when the spotlight turned harsh. Tom added, "She's not with that guy anymore." Jake didn't care. Chris wasn't the point. Sarah's choices were. Jake's new life took shape in small, deliberate steps. He started painting again, a hobby he'd abandoned during their marriage. At a Tacoma community center, he joined an art class, sketching landscapes on cheap canvas. They weren't masterpieces, crooked trees, smudged horizons, but the act of creating felt like reclaiming a piece of himself. One evening, he left a painting of Puget Sound at a park bench near his apartment, a note taped to it: "You're not your past. Step forward." He didn't know who'd find it, but it wasn't for Sarah. It was for anyone stuck where he'd been. His soccer coaching kept him grounded. The kids at Green Lake Park didn't know about his divorce, but their high fives and relentless energy reminded Jake he was more than a betrayed husband. Parents started noticing his resilience, one mom saying, "You're always so steady with them." Jake smiled, deflecting, but the words stuck. Steady. He was rebuilding that part of himself, brick by brick. A month later, Jake met Lena at a Tacoma bookstore. He was rearranging novels by color, a nervous habit, when she laughed from behind the counter. "Avoiding something?" she asked, her tone playful. Lena, 32, ran the shop and had a knack for reading people without judgment. They started talking, first about books, then about life. On their second coffee meetup, Jake told her about the divorce, not as a sob story, but as a fact. "You don't seem broken," Lena said, stirring her latte. "You seem rebuilt." Jake held on to that, the first time he'd felt seen in years. Sarah's absence left ripples. A coworker forwarded Jake a screenshot of a private group chat, leaked by one of Sarah's former friends. It was from months ago, Sarah bragging, "He's so checked out, I can do what I want." The words stung, but they also validated Jake's choice to walk away. He didn't share the screenshot or fuel the gossip. He deleted it, letting the truth speak for itself. The forum post Emily had written still circulated, with comments now at 500, some calling the unnamed woman careless. Sarah's Pilates instructor texted Jake. She stopped coming to class. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." Jake thanked her, but he didn't need apologies. He needed to move on. 6 months after the divorce, Jake got a final letter from Sarah, forwarded through Emily. It was brief, typed, "I didn't expect to break you. I am sorry." Jake read it once, then shredded it. She hadn't broken him. She'd underestimated him. He'd never shattered, just disappeared quietly, rebuilding where she couldn't follow. Emily called that night, fuming. She showed up at my place, asking to explain. I gave her nothing. Jake laughed, a rare sound. Good. Let her explain to herself. Jake's new routine became his anchor. He coached, painted, and started hiking the Cascades with Lena, who shared his love for quiet trails. One weekend, he revisited a lake near Seattle where he and Sarah had once taken a photo, him holding a fish, her laughing. This time, he went alone, carrying a small canvas he'd painted the night before, a lone figure by the water, not waiting, just standing. He left it on a dock with another note. The past isn't a prison. Walk out. As he drove back to Tacoma, the weight of Sarah's betrayal was gone, replaced by a peace he'd earned. Sarah's consequences were her own. She'd lost her social circle, her credibility, and the marriage she'd taken for granted. Jake didn't celebrate her downfall. He didn't need to. He'd exposed her lies without raising his voice, letting the truth do the work. Now, in his new apartment, with a half-finished painting on an easel and a soccer game to coach tomorrow, Jake felt whole. Not the man Sarah had tried to erase, but the one who'd walked away and found himself again.